Republican Dan Crenshaw of Texas is a retired Navy SEAL who fought in Afghanistan. He may also be the first representative-elect to appear on Saturday Night Live.
Well, I was in the military for 10 years. I took an oath to the Constitution 12 years ago. And, that oath has not ended. So it's really about service. It's about service and it's about impact. How can I impact the issues that matter to my constituents? We're still reeling from Hurricane Harvey. We want more individual freedom. We want less government in our lives. We want to live that American dream. And those are things we can actually agree on. And that's what I'll be fighting for.
So when you hear that there's an approval rating of just 19%, you think you can do better than that?
Well, I hope so. Is that an improvement? Or it might be an improvement. I thought it was lower at one point.
Yeah.
I understand that's the case. And the military has long brought a lot of credibility to American institutions. I hope to bring some of that credibility to Congress. And, the way we do that is we talk to each other like we're actually people. Let's not attack each other's intent. Let's not attack each other as a person. Let's attack ideas. All right? We can debate ideas. We can disagree on ideas all day long. Let's find the things that we actually agree upon and work on those.
Well, look, I think that right now it's important for this majority in the House to engage in some really critical oversight of an administration that is undermining a lot of critical freedoms for folks in our country. And so when I say save our democracy, I mean precisely that I think some of our democratic freedoms and the principles that we live by have been under attack for the better part of the last 2 years.
Congressman-elect, do you want to respond to that since the president is the leader of your party?
Yeah. Well, I always ask the question, like what? What is he undermining exactly? What democratic freedoms have been undermined? We just had an election where we switched power in the House. Democracy is at work. People are voting in record numbers. I always ask for examples, and then we can hit those examples one by one. And if it's worth criticizing, it's worth criticizing. But just kind of this broad brush criticism that the president is somehow undermining our democracy, I always wonder what exactly we're talking about.
I'll be happy to add all of the things that he's
I'm happy to give an example.
Yeah.
I mean, the undermining of the freedom
the free
of
press,
right.
Judiciary, CIA, FBI, the voting process.
By way of example,
Obama indicted had many press members under investigation. Trump is not.
That's true.
So just this
what is the difference
this
here?
last week, one of the largest media publications in the United States, right, had to go to a federal court in order to essentially regain access to the press room.
One reporter, not the whole organization.
Including CBS, did file amicus briefs in support.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think we obviously it's part of a much larger
because he was disruptive.
But, well, again,
I would argue that our president
disagrees,
is consistently disruptive in those very same press conferences, and I would argue that he treats
how is that an
disrespect.
attack on the press, though?
Because it's literally an attack on the press.
I've literally been attacked, so let's choose our words carefully.
His language is an attack.
Okay, so why can't he speak? Why is he not allowed to use his own language and freedom of speech?
Because you talked about this, actually. It's important that we lead from example, that we lead from the top. And the way that our president is currently
I agree with
leading,
you there. I agree with you there. Style is one thing. If you want to criticize style, I'm with you. Right? But to say it's an attack on the freedom of the press, that is a very bold statement.
By calling the press the enemy of the people,
yeah, I don't like that language.
Literally.
Okay, so the style, I agree. I don't like that language.
And fake news, of course. Yes. And I'll give you another example. His rhetoric about erasing trans people in our country. That,
and he's never said that.
Well, it appears that he is discriminating against the LGBTQ community. And I think that's troublesome. I think it's worrisome. We all have communities across this country. And and we mentioned it at the beginning, ripping children away from their parents' arms. Those are all things that worry me, that I absolutely feel that we have to have oversight on.
How about just, maligning the CIA and the FBI and the State Department and all those important institutions that are fundamental to how our democracy works.
What I hear a lot is you don't like what he says, and sometimes, okay, but and you don't like we have policy disagreements, but you're saying undermining democracy. And I want to caution us because those are very bold words. If we have policy disagreements, let's focus on those policy disagreements. And I'll be happy to discuss those at any point. But this is what I've been getting at kind of all week, which is we tend to go right at the jugular, right? We say you're undermining democracy, you're a bad person fundamentally. That's not always true. We have policy disagreements on a lot of these things.